Okay. All right. Well, I have opened Sancha's PowerPoint. So now, my dear friends, since there's nobody online other than you,
yeah.
Can you see it?
Yeah, I can see that. Learning resources for teaching Spanish.
Okay, that's very good. Right. So now, what I suggest, Dylan, that you actually can assess it.
Yeah.
Okay, so now imagine you are a teacher, and you know what the assignment involves. So now all you have to do is assess it. So you open her assignment. There's a title, Year 8, so that's pretty good. Children are about, what, 12, 13?
Yeah.
Hey?
I mean, the first slide is very good. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. First slide is least important, but yeah, it's okay. All right, so the contents we have. So go on, read it through and think.
Part 1, Teacher Instructions, Teaching and Learning Context. Justification of the pedagogical approach used to teach LOTE. Unit Overview and Sequence Summary. Learning Outcomes, Direction for Teachers. Reference. Part 2, Student Activities and Resources. Activity 1. Activity 2. Activity 2. 2. I think he or she can put more like something related to Spanish, like learning content, some basic ideas in here.
Why?
Because it's too general.
What makes basic basic?
I would say like the teaching and the learning context for something like this particular, maybe some specific. For example, I'm not quite sure about Spanish. Maybe he or she can put like the teaching and the learning context for basic Spanish vocabularies.
Why?
Why? It's more clear for the
really.
For other, yeah.
Okay, so justify it pedagogically. What principle of pedagogy makes it clear? Which principle of pedagogy talks about listing vocabulary?
Which pedagogy? Let me think about. It would be. I better open my assignment. Then I can look back. Communication and thinking skills.
Well, but communication and thinking skills is not saying vocabulary list. It says communication and thinking skills. It's not that. These words are not the same words as the word vocabulary. So why would you put vocabulary? No, I'm just asking you. I'm not saying you're right or wrong. The value of today's talk is actually to start, because we're moving towards assignment 2. And assignment 2 will have an e-portfolio. And in that e-portfolio, I strongly suggest you upload your PowerPoint as well online, and you actually you'd be encouraged to write a manual of how to use your activity. The activities that you described in assignment 1, it would be very nice to write a manual for someone like who is a professional teacher and give them an advice on how to use your lesson plans or your unit of work. And one of the parts of the manual should be to actually explain what Sancha has here as part 1. So, for example, if Sancha writes justification of a pedagogical approach, so and you are thinking of communication skills, and you are matching communication with vocabulary, you will need to explain how you got there. Why is communication and vocabulary list to you the same?
Okay.
Come on, shoot, it doesn't matter. You know, you're the only one here online, so people are learning from you. They probably think the same as you or less.
Okay.
So don't worry, there's nothing against you. You will not get it wrong, and I will not judge you on the basis of these classes, okay? So I'm a little bit different than most probably teachers. Basically, you need to feel safe in this environment, and you need to feel that you can actually come up with sense and nonsense, and it doesn't matter. We're here to actually learn from one another. And anyone who is not online and thinks better, well, then good.
Okay.
So come on. So why did you come up with a vocabulary list? Why didn't you come up with a verb list?
Because I think it's the basic to learn a language. You must learn some vocabulary first, then you can.
Okay, that is true. I mean, well, I don't know about first, but you can't use words unless you actually know them, right?
Yes.
Well, there's no language without words, but there's no language without concepts that work for the particular language. So if you go to Poland, for example, or even China, and you talk about particular things, different things are actually, or different, so there's not just vocabulary, there's also concepts. There's also practices or the ways people do things. So learning vocabulary is important, but what does that mean? You don't, when you memorize vocabulary lists, then you're really memorizing them in your first language, because you don't know what they really refer to.
Okay.
You know, the concept of mother in one culture might actually be the same word in another culture, but it means two different things, right? Not in every culture it's the same cult of the mother. Not in every culture we have similar, even though the word, there are particular ways of translating things. So I'll give you an example. It's quite funny. So in English, we say, when you meet a person in English, you say, how are you?
Yeah.
There's a shared joke all around the world that you never ask a Polish person, how are you? Because they will tell you. Instead of responding, how are you? They will say, well, actually funny you ask, because I really had a bad day yesterday, it got better today, you know, and blah, and blah, and blah, and for half an hour you're talking.
Okay.
And all, right? So the way how the how are you translates into Polish, or how it is frequently translated, is not the, so how are you has a function in English as hi, but a lot of times people actually misread it, and they actually answer it as a question. So what I'm saying is vocabulary and vocabulary is not the same, because when you actually learn vocabulary lists, you actually learn their meaning in your first language. So when then you actually apply this vocabulary to practices in a second language, you actually are speaking English in Chinese, or you're speaking English in Spanish, right? People don't have a clue what you're talking about because you're translating literally.
Yeah.
So that's a bit of a problem here, because we got stuck on this vocabulary list, and while it is true, it is totally true that you need to know words, or you need to be able to actually signify things in a second language, because otherwise you're actually not speaking it.
Yeah, that's right.
So how do we do it?
How do we do that?
What do we do? I mean, so if we give them a list, they are most likely to memorize it and speak in English while thinking that they actually speak Chinese.
Or maybe they can do some activities.
And? So just wait, what happened to your, so what, through activities you would teach them vocabulary, right?
Yeah, or you know the actions. Once you know the actions, you can like link the word and the actions together, like use like a picture or something, just memorize or linking to something else automatically.
And so for the first lesson, we will teach them how many words?
Maybe 2 or 3.
And where did you get the number from?
By common sense.
Those in education, from the position of pedagogy. You can't, from the principles of pedagogy, you can't just pull things out of the straw head. Mind you, everyone else does it. That's okay. But for as long as you do this unit with Ania Lian, you have to actually tell me where you got your number 2, and you have to justify it on the basis of pedagogy, on basis of principles of pedagogy, not from your straw hat. I'm not interested in straw fires or straw hats or straw anything. So where do we get the number 2? So first lesson 2. So okay, let's run with your 2. So first of all, you can't justify it pedagogically, or can you?
Yeah.
How did you, other than common sense, can you come up with some other justification of the number 2?
The time period. Generally, the teacher only have 1 hour lesson.
And that's enough for two words?
Yes, I think that's enough because generally, like you can have like the introduction. What's my name? Where are you from?
But what's my name? It's 3 words. 4 words. What is my name? 4 words. So it's already overdone. We can't ask what is my name because it's 4 words.
Oh yeah.
So maybe for lesson 2 we do half of a sentence, half of a question. So for the first week we do what is, and then next week we do my name. And in 2 weeks they will learn what is my name.
Okay. Yeah, that's right.
What do you mean that's right?
Means like do it step by step, rather than giving all the knowledge, all the stuff, all the like teaching content to students. Just like build like the basic steps for them.
Okay, and how will we justify it? What pedagogic principle talks about step by step?
I would say, let me think about it. It would be social and personal capabilities.
But the social and personal capabilities don't use the word step by step. Capability never. I mean, if I hear the word capability, I don't hear the word step by step. I hear the word capability. They're 2 different words, aren't they?
Yeah.
So, how did you get from capability? You got step by step. How did you do that?
Transfer from capabilities to step by step.
Capabilities are step by step?
No, but you can paraphrase.
You can paraphrase. No, you could actually, at this very moment, I would like to actually know, without paraphrasing, which could sometimes be making things up, I would actually want to know literally where step by step comes from.
Okay. I don't know that.
I can tell you.
Yeah.
You told me before it's common sense.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so why do we talk about pedagogic approach? Why don't we just talk about justification of the unit of work in terms of a common sense? Why do we talk about pedagogic approach? Why don't we just talk about common sense?
Because you cannot rely on common sense.
But you are.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we can use common sense to do some basic stuff. Then we need to do some deep research, maybe on Google Scholar or video library summon.
And what, look for words step by step?
Maybe we can put capabilities or steps or research skills or pedagogy or something related to education or learning.
Okay, so for now we have established that learning 2 words per lesson might be a good idea, except that we can't justify it in any other terms than common sense.
Yeah.
And obviously, Dylan, you haven't done enough research on Google Scholar because you don't know yet a theoretical justification of step by step. The only way you can actually justify it is by common sense.
Okay. But I hardly ever use Google Scholar. I prefer use the library summon.
But at this very moment, we are week 8 in our unit, and in week 8 you talk about common sense.
Oh yeah, because generally I just use common sense to give a basic idea, then put the keywords into Google Scholar or the library summon.
So we got stuck a little bit with what's her name, Sancha, right? With Sancha. We got a bit stuck. We really didn't go past the contents. We got stuck on the issue of vocabulary lists. And I think it's really good because we really don't know. I mean, she talks about pedagogical approach and you talk about vocabulary. What else is there? Grammar. Why didn't you mention grammar?
Grammar.
Why did you mention? Yeah, you didn't. You said that she should. You said not grandma, grammar. Why did you talk about vocabulary? Why weren't you talking about grammar?
Because I've noticed the students' learning background are like year 8. It's not appropriate to let year 8 students learn grammar first.
Okay, so vocabulary is important, grammar not. What about culture? She doesn't have the word culture there.
Grammar is also important, but at this stage, they should learn vocabulary first.
Yes, but we can't justify it. It is still a common sense.
Yeah.
So you cannot say, I mean, that's the point about pedagogy. Everybody knows that there is such a thing like pedagogical approach. And then when we are actually talking about what to do, we go back to common sense.
Yeah, we should keep use academic resources to support our ideas.
No, not to support our ideas. You don't use you don't use theory to support your common sense.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen someone? Have you ever seen someone building a rocket on the basis of their common sense and using theory only to support their own common sense? So we don't build rockets on the basis of science. We build the rocket on the basis of common sense, and we only use theory to support our own thinking. So we didn't really need the theory. We only need theory just to support our common thinking.
Yeah.
Dylan, do you know what the word pedagogical approach means?
Yeah, I know the pedagogical approach. Like the theory.
What does it mean?
Means use like the theoretical or like the way or like the useful way to teach students.
Say it again, darling. Say it again.
More theoretical way to teach students. More academic and more.
So pedagogical approach really means what kinds of principles guide your teaching.
Yeah. That's almost what I mean.
Okay, so what we might do now is copy this and duplicate this. Sancha will be going nuts now because she was hoping we would move forward, and we're not moving forward at all. We are stuck with some point, and we will be actually working with it quite a lot. So here we go. Pedagogic approach means principles that guide, let's call it teaching. Pedagogical approach or pedagogical approach means principles that guide teaching. All right. So what does that mean?
Use principle in your classroom to teach students.
Okay. So what questions do we have to answer? So what questions do I'm not writing this for nothing because all of this should be in your e-portfolio, what I'm writing now. These are important, this is important information that you actually will be using in your e-portfolio to produce a manual for your teachers, for other teachers, to learn how to think about pedagogy, because your e-portfolio has to be a professional source of professional information for you and others. So this is very important. So maybe what I'll do, I'll make sure that we leave here this. So this is Sancha. This is us. So what questions do we need to address when constructing a pedagogical approach? What do we have to address in a pedagogical approach?
What kind of pedagogy?
Okay, what else?
How to apply pedagogy into teaching environments? Students' behavior in the classrooms and adjustments. Adjustments based on students. Because you always need to change your pedagogical approach to different students. Some students may have like some.
Who tells you that? Where do you get that from?
Last time, yeah, I did some basic research on library, videos library.
But if you have a pedagogical approach, here it is, right? If you have a pedagogical approach, and you've got principles, and what are you saying? You have to adjust your pedagogy, so you keep changing from some principles. So in the middle of so you don't have just principles, you've got 5,000 principles, and you adjust them continuously, or do you, I don't know, what, I mean, I don't understand what's the role of approach if you're saying that adjust according to kids' behavior. As kids behave differently, you change your pedagogy. As kids behave again differently, you change your pedagogy. So you don't have just one approach. You've got 5,000 of them, right?
Yeah.
Where do you guys get this stuff from? Can't believe it. All right, so it's a student approach, let's say, but we also should actually worry about teachers' behavior. Would you say? In classroom?
Yeah.
You wouldn't. I would.
Teachers' behavior. Yeah, I think I should be aware of that.
All right, so we're going to get rid of that at this very moment. Just going to do some things here. I would love to make this thing smaller, if possible.
Yeah, it's
all right.
very good.
All right, so what we might do now, okay, so what do you think? What kind of pedagogy we should have? What kind of pedagogy we should have?
Teaching pedagogy.
Why?
Because if you are a teacher, you need to know what kind of teaching pedagogy to use in the classroom.
Okay, so teaching pedagogy, but what kind of, but you said that there are kinds of pedagogy, so what kind of pedagogy we should have?
Teachers teaching pedagogy, students learning pedagogy, classroom management pedagogy, assignment, assessment pedagogy, like all these many stuff.
It's a lot of pedagogies, isn't it? I mean, one can actually almost go into a overload. Okay, well, I'm just going to use this thing to just clean up some things, because if you are saying these things, I assume that a lot of people think the same way. So, so what was I had an idea how to work with it. So teacher, what did you call it? Teacher?
Teaching pedagogy. Teachers teaching pedagogy.
Okay, so tell me more about it. So explain it. So what's the principles here?
How to teach.
So how should we teach?
How to use different ways to teach.
So how should we? Tell me more. So give me some answers.
You mean how should we teach?
Yeah.
Yeah. How to prepare lesson, how to use different resources to focus on the learning environment, to think about students' behavior from teacher's perspective, and how to work with other colleagues to promote, to enhance students' academic results.
I agree with everything. So so give me some answers. So what answers to these questions can you come up with? How should we teach? How should we teach?
How to you mean what should we teach?
How should we teach? How should we teach?
How should we teach? Use tones, use speaking ways.
How should we teach? Okay, so how should we teach?
How should we teach?
And what?
Many different ways. Yeah,
many different ways. Give me one way.
One way. Just maybe I can give you the most basic.
Give me an example. I mean, what principle? Okay, give me a principle. How should we teach? Tell me more.
Maybe I can give you the most basic example. Teacher-centered teaching.
Teacher what?
Teacher-centered teaching style. All the students sit in maybe in 1 row or 2 row or 3 rows, and the teacher using PowerPoint giving instruction in front of the students. Yeah, we call it as teacher-centered teaching style.
Mm-hmm. Just wait. Where do I have it? Oh my God, I opened the wrong thing. I opened the wrong thing, but I will get the right thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just wait. Okay. So, can you see this picture on the right?
I can't see the picture on the right. Yeah, I can't see the picture on the right side. No.
Can you see, what do you see?
I only see the original PowerPoint.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's why I hate Lian. I feel very happy to use that.
Okay, so let me. I can't actually. So I'll just remove it a little bit, and I will. Okay, that's better. You mean like that?
No, I still cannot see. I only can see the PowerPoint.
Yeah, but do you see a PowerPoint now? Do you still see Sanchi PowerPoint or different PowerPoint?
The same thing. Nothing has changed.
Really?
Yeah.
It's impossible. It's impossible. So what we might do is do something else. Can you see a different PowerPoint now?
Oh yes, yeah, I can see that now.
So this is what you like, this kind of pedagogy, teacher-centered. Is it teacher-centered or learner-centered? What do you think?
I think it's learner-centered, it's not teacher-centered.
Why?
Because all the students sit together, they share different knowledge. They can have very close, the communications with each other.
So this is teacher-centered or learner-centered here?
I would say it's learner-centered, not teacher-centered.
All right, so we'll move on. I had a better picture, but obviously not in this slide. I'll have to do with this one. What about here?
Just a moment. Yeah, it's loading. Yeah. I can't see that quite clear. Oh, yeah, I can see. It's teacher-centered. A teacher standing in front of all the students, giving instructions, and all the students sitting there writing down notes.
Well, we don't know whether they're writing, but they are.
Yeah, they're typing or writing. I can't see that very clear. It's a like black picture. Yeah, not quite clear.
Okay, so we have a teacher in front of them, and this is not teacher in front of children.
Not really. You can see the teachers sitting quite close to these students.
Well, what's the difference? What's the difference between the teacher being 1 meter away or 5 meters away?
And there is no difference between like the distance from students or how far it is. But the most quite clear thing I can see from these two different pictures, the black one, I can see quite clear this person giving instructions to these students.
Good, that's right. And here the teacher is not giving instructions?
It's not really. You can see students, the black students, the girl or boy, I can see very clear, pointing the book or something. It's like the shared knowledge. Yeah, it's like almost like sharing information with each other, with the teacher. Yeah.
So basically on this picture, everybody is looking at one book, right?
Yeah.
And in this picture, what are they looking at?
I can't see that very clear. It's a black.
Okay, so I don't have a better picture because I chose the wrong PowerPoint, but that will do. Each child also has the same book.
Oh, okay. I thought it was iPad.
So basically, these children, the teacher is directing them, but all children are looking at the same text.
Okay.
So these squares they have in front of them, it's the book.
Yes.
So basically they are reading, all of them are reading the same text, and the teacher is guiding them how to read. Yes. And when you look here, all children are reading the same book, and the teacher is guiding them how to what's the good reading and what's the bad reading. In every sense, my argument is that this picture and this picture is the same.
Okay.
No, don't accept it. Today we're cool. It's a freebie today, right? We should be having a week off. So instead of having a week off, today we are chatting. We're having an intellectual chat, which is about cleaning, which is about teaching us a little bit of abstract thinking. What we have here is what looks on the surface, it looks pleasant. Everybody is smiling, but everybody is doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And looking at the same page. And the teacher is happy because the teacher has attention of every child doing exactly what she wants them to do. All working together in one step.
Yeah.
So I don't know, Dylan, whether you're married or not.
I'm not married. I just
wait. People have been married. Some people in our unit are married or have boyfriends and girlfriends. And I would they would be very challenged to tell me when they do the same thing at the same time in the same way together with their couple, as a couple. Nobody. Only in school there is a situation where the teacher opens one book and 5 people, 6 people, 20 people are looking at the same text together. And they have to, because otherwise the teacher will not be smiling.
Yeah.
So if a teacher's mood depends on all kids doing the same thing, it is not a student-centered situation. This is where teacher is controlling. The teacher is in the control of a resource. The teacher designated the book. This is what we are doing. This is what we are looking at. this page and let's enjoy it, children. So they do. There is here in this picture, I cannot see children actually exercising their will and doing things that they would like to do. They're all sitting in front of one book doing the same thing. The difference between this picture and this picture is only the color and a bit of technology. Right, so this is just a colorful picture book and, you know, sort of a bit more 20th century sort of decoration. But here, the teacher in front, the teacher in front. 20th century says, or 21st century says, well, maybe we should have them closer to the teacher. Well, all right, so you have them closer, but what's the difference? The distance, how far are the children from you, doesn't matter. You still are at the front and you're still guiding. He's at the front and he's guiding. They're all looking at the same text in this picture, and in the colorful picture, they were all looking at the same text. An abstract model of a teacher-centered. Teacher-centered is never teacher-centered. That's a mistake that lots of people make. Teacher-centered is never teacher-centered. It's a single book-centered. That square here, I don't know whether you can say, but that red square is not the teacher. It's a book.
Oh, okay.
So whether it's book here or book here, it's still a single book. It's called the Big Book Pedagogy, where we all have one text and we hope that the miracle happens when we will look long enough at one text. Well, it never happened. The miracle never happened. It's called, you know, medieval methodology of teaching anything. It is, if anything, that we used to call this pedagogy teacher-centered. It had nothing to do with the teacher being at the center. At the center always was one single text, and in Western culture it typically used to be the Bible as the source of all knowledge.
Yeah.
And then you had the teacher, which is here represented at the very, very top in the left corner, that sort of rhomboid. The teacher is represented as a meaning maker. He knows how to actually read that text, right? The teacher knows how to read it. The teacher actually is in command of one single way of reading a text. Because when you actually teach the Bible or Quran, there are no two readings. Because it's either believer's reading or it's a pagan reading, right? And you always want to be on the believer's side. So that's why we have teacher here at the center or in front of children to ensure that children read that book right. There's only one reading of the book. Now, yeah. I'm not sure whether you have enough of fluency in the Western critique of, in the discourses of critique of Western pedagogy or of Western way of teaching. So this might actually take a bit longer for you to actually get accustomed to that way of talking about it. And of a sarcasm. All of this is filled with sarcasm. One reading of a single book, it's a total nonsense in Western culture. In Western culture, there is no such a thing like one reading. There is no such a thing as a teacher translating of how to read the book. We will talk about it later on, why. But we might even today talk about it. Depends how it actually develops. So why isn't there? Okay, let's talk about it now. Why do you think, Dylan? I don't know whether you actually are with that argument. But why do you think people say there is no one way of reading the text? Can you actually come up with some idea? Or maybe you can say that there is one reading of the text.
You mean for this kind of teaching style? Oh yeah, because teacher is the only right answer.
Well, it's not just the answer. The problem really is here. There's several problems, but the main problem is, why is this particular book chosen at all? Is this the source of all answers? What makes that book revealing and relevant? Where is the context that makes it clear to children that this book is gonna do it for them? This text is just it. That's where the Chinese language lives. Once you memorize the text in this page, you will be able to speak some Chinese. And here comes the crux, Dylan, something for you to think about. I strongly suggest you re-listen to these collaborate sessions. Here's the problem.
Yeah.
Say that in week 1, they will learn 2 words. Week 2, another 2 words. Week 3, another 2 words. By week 16, they will know 32 words. Do you believe that?
Yes.
They won't. Because no word. It's called banking pedagogy. It was the term banking pedagogy was coined by Paulo Freire. Paulo Freire was Brazilian pedagogue who was one of the first people who, at least on paper, are accepted as one of the biggest critiques of such a nonsense pedagogy. So his name, I just would love to, there's no way I can write him. Okay, we'll just do that, just wait. Oh. Hey?
I want to know his name, then I can remember him, and I never use this kind of pedagogy again.
Right. And it's called oppressive pedagogy. And the reason why it is called oppressive, people very often don't understand why he actually talks about pedagogy of oppression. But what he means here is that the teacher, doesn't matter how well-meaning is. Look at this. This teacher here is smiling, right? She is well-meaning. But she is well-meaning because she is uneducated. None of the teachers is meaning badly. Even teachers who teach badly, they mean well. But unfortunately, meaning well is not sufficient to teach in a way that actually produces results for children. It's called oppression. It's because the teacher here assumes that once the teacher explains the meaning, people will understand.
Yeah.
But there's a reason why it will not happen. We spoke in our lesson 1 about, I think it was in this unit, we spoke a little bit about neuroscience. And we will be slowly moving, especially in the next semester when we teach this unit in 252, we will move much closer into neuroscience. But there is a reason why it doesn't matter how much the teacher explains the meaning of words, the meaning of the text, nobody really gets it, and not enough in order to powerfully, it's not enough to know 16 or 32 words in Chinese. You actually have to be competent in their use. And it's a totally different ball game. But there's a reason why explanation doesn't work. There is a reason, Dylan, why I spoke about pedagogy for the last 8 weeks, and you still come up with the answers you give me, which are not necessarily that satisfying to me. There is a reason.
Yeah.
I could have today said that some suggestions you made were actually not reflecting much of the learning on your part in this unit. I could say it, but I'm too smart to say that. Do you know why?
Why?
Because I understand about meaning management, and I know, but doesn't matter how often I talk about meaning making and how often I talk about pedagogical approach, what you have in your head, it is so entrenched. It has gone through so many processes of actually reproduction through your education in schools, through discussions all around, through common sense, that it is so hard to change it. But over and over again, you will talk to me about vocabulary lists, and you will talk to me about the value of the teacher in front of the class. Because simply what is hard for people to actually understand, and even harder to think of how to change pedagogy, what's really hard for people to understand that when people actually, so there's a number of 3 things people should understand, teachers should understand. I hope I can remember them. So the first one is that when students come into the classroom, they come with different histories. What's meaning? Meaning is activation of meaning-making networks in your brain. Obviously, the meaning-making networks that you have in your brain were established through your life, throughout your life. But your life is not my life. So every kid had their lives. So every kid come with a different brain to your classroom. And then you stand in front of them and you have a mind of a what? 30-year-old, 40-year-old, 50-year-old.
No,
Teachers are 20, 30, 40, 50, right? They have different understandings. They look at the text from their perspective and from the perspective also of the interests they think they represent. Children come here and go like, well, want to play today? Can I do something really good? You say, oh, blah, 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 blah. So not only they have different meaning-making systems in their heads, they also look at the lesson through different intentions than you. So you explain and you smartly explain, and they never really, really, truly get it. And then you evaluate them and you give them 0. And now they know on paper they're stupid. It's called oppression. Oppression is not just the children are oppressed, the teacher is caught in discourses of oppression, because the teacher himself doesn't really understand that children to whom he or she explains anything should never actually understand what he or she is saying. You can never really truly explain to anyone anything.
Yeah.
You can produce conditions for children to engage and create, but you cannot explain to them anything. And they're two different things. So conditions to create, and what did I say? Conditions to I can't rewind it.
It's okay.
You can create conditions for them to engage in thinking, to think, to create, to produce things, to engage, but you cannot explain to them anything, because if you could, because you cannot create an explanation that all of them, you cannot create a match, because there is no such a thing between your explanation and what they have in their heads.
Yeah, that's true.
There's a problem there, right? How teachers will see the relationship, how teachers will produce an explanation, and how students actually hear it is two different things. But if you create conditions to engage, to create, to think, so this one, oh my goodness, if you create conditions, if your environment, learning environment, enables children to think, to create, to engage, then your explanations, if you actually have any, if you ever actually even produce any, will be one among many resources or sources of clues kids will access. So your explanations will be functioning as one of the many sources of clues that they will be accessing to put things together in their heads. But that's very different. Your explanation is not aiming to explain. Your explanation is aiming to be one of those things, one of these resources, one of those clues you put into environment for kids to explore and to actually create meaning out of them. If it is one of many, then it might actually be of relevance. But if it is it, that's it. I explained you, now you should know. Anyone who thinks this actually doesn't have a theoretical justification. There is nothing in the world that will actually justify an assumption that just because you explain, someone should understand it. In fact, we have explanations in the universe of pedagogy, neuroscience, and meaning-making fields that deal with meaning. Everybody will say, your explanation is your explanation. There is absolutely no reason why anyone should understand it. That's why we need to have environments which are complex, and that means rich in clues. I call it rich in resources. It really doesn't matter. Rich in clues. We need to create environments for children. Environment is not the same as selecting the book. This is not environment. That's just a control freak teacher sitting in front of the book, controlling resources and controlling attention. It's a micromanager who doesn't know how to teach, even if she smiles. So that was not environment. Environment means something more. It needs to be complex. It has to be rich in clues, therefore rich in resources, so that it enables students, let's call it students, to find information, to identify relevant bits, to integrate by integrating clues, right? We have spoken in the lesson 1, and you were in there was some other student, and the student has never reappeared again for some reason, but we have spoken in lesson 1 that meaning is not a function of one neuron, one symbol. Meaning is a function of the brain connecting things. I might actually be able to find a PowerPoint that says that. Open. Let me have a look.
Well, so many documents on your computer.
Just thinking what I have where. That might do. This is Sunday or Saturday? Saturday should be here. Let's make it big. Can you see it?
Yes, I can see that. Simpson.
Right, but I can't find the thing I actually wanted to show you. Okay. Look at the brain. This is what you have. I mean, this is just one of the things which you have in the brain. But let's and it's very important to understand that the brain doesn't see reality. The brain constructs reality. Nobody sees reality. Nobody sees reality. When children are born, everything is just isolated sensations that come into their head through different sensory systems. And through culture and through being with us, they learn how to put things together and how to actually construct meaningful world and meaningful symbols and interact. But I mean, this is just one of the pictures that I have come up, that I have found on the internet. Your brain, however, has neurons that create meaning out of different aspects of reality. So you've got neurons for lines, you've got neurons for color, you've got neurons for shades as well, neurons for outline, neurons for different features, edges, width, depth, whatever it is. I don't know. I mean, how broad things are. You've got neurons for different neurons for different aspects of the face, and different hierarchy there too, for different types of things, familiar things, not familiar, and a lot of neurons are also individually specific. But what it says, that the meaning construct, we've got more cells in our brain than we have, I don't know, stars and whatever in the universe. The brain is bigger than the entire universe that we know. And it is necessarily so big so that it can actually detect contrasts between elements and then group them together into meaningful symbols. The reason why I'm mentioning this is because the idea that you explain something or you show something and they will see what you think, it's a nonsense, because children are engaged in meaning construction from different aspects. And they will be selecting on the basis of what worked in first language. So anything new, like what second language produces, is so new that they don't have systems yet to capture it. That's why people have accent. They have an accent because they don't have any patterns in the brain to detect the Chinese. But they've got everything in English. So it doesn't matter how many times you explain to them how to pronounce things in Chinese, they won't understand you because they have patterns for English, not for Chinese. So now you have to create tools, resources, tools. You have to create tools that will enable children to break down information, to look at Chinese in more than one way so that they can restructure their brain. Now, we haven't discussed it yet how to do it, right? Because this is just like level 2 or whatever. Yeah. But we will be doing this in the next 4 weeks. We'll be doing this. But at this very moment, I didn't talk about it. But I did talk about students constructing the Chinese world, not students replicating. We are not photocopying machines. Human beings are not photocopying machines. And if we are not photocopying machines, that means that if you explain something, you are just producing a photocopy of your brain, but nobody else can actually match it with their brain. So the idea that explanation should be understood has no theoretical basis. There is nothing in neuroscience. There's nothing in the theory of sociologies. There's nothing in the theory of meaning making that will actually justify that explanation should be understood. For what you think you explain, right? Explanation explains something, but you think that you just explained everything. But you just might have activated some neurons, some networks in students' heads. Obviously, you explained something, but what it activated and how it is integrated, it's another story. So even I'm not against explanation, but what I am is against the pedagogy of oppression, when the teacher thinks that they explained more than they actually have. Right? We actually give a lot of value to our little explanations, whereas they were just simple, they were just clues. They were just little clues. For different people, those clues, they did different things. Obviously, something has moved in students' heads, something got activated. But to make out of an explanation a theory of language learning, and this is now, I will assess you on what I just explained, is to create oppression. You create a situation where you destabilize, where you actually terrify students, and they run. They no longer want to look at Chinese. And you lose students, you lose work. That's the sort of progression scale. It's not progression from 2 words to 4 words to 6 words. It's a progression of people loving Chinese, coming with interest into your classroom and running away, because they are now subjected to a pedagogy of oppression where everything they do is wrong and everything you do is right. You see, it's really, really that serious.
Yes, that's right.
It is serious. It is serious because our jobs Our money, our mortgage depends on people's happiness. So coming back to the issue, what we should be doing, is first thing we should be doing is, as teachers, if anything, we should be understanding one of the principles that we should be having for pedagogy is that people are different. People are different. We should also understand, I'm just going to keep this picture as much as I can in our mind because it's a horror picture and we should keep it in mind, but it actually still is. People are different. People have desires and intentions. And that's what makes them happy. I want to do this. I want to have a look about China. I want to look at China. I'm interested in Chinese. Someone said to me I have to do Chinese. All right, I'm sitting here. And so as teachers, we should not teach. We should enable students to tap into their desires and intentions. Oh my God, Ania, this is just too difficult. Nobody understands. Well, you don't have to understand. I'll tell you how you have to do it, but you don't have to understand it, provided that you do it. Right? So we will talk about it for the next 4 or 5 weeks. But to tap into intentions, and then this is start of our preparation for assignment 2. Now, by all means, don't change your PowerPoints. Whatever you created as your lessons and your PowerPoints for assignment 1, it's completely irrelevant. What we will be doing, well, just do it, submit it, and it doesn't matter. I mean, you know, it's irrelevant in the sense that it is through assignment 2 we will be actually critically evaluating our activities, our assignment 1 together. And assignment 2 is actually what starts the game. Through assignment 2, as we try to create our own manuals to teach people how to use our resource that we created for assignment 1, we will be actually critiquing and telling them, yeah, I thought that, but maybe better would be like this. This is a good thing, and you can make this and this way better. Right? Or you can look for information there and there, or you can do this and this. So what really matters, so the assignment 1 is basically a starting point. And I will not be tough in assessment of it because it's just a start. So that's why I said it's irrelevant in the sense that I will not be tough, but I will be a little bit more strict with assignment 2 because assignment 2 now has to show how much we have grown from assignment 1. Assignment 1 was just a start, a warm-up. It was a start.
Oh, really? That's a very good sign that I hear that you will not be too strict.
I will not be too strict, and I don't want you to spend too much time on it. I just want you to submit, everyone. I want to submit. I won't be tough. But assignment 2 is what matters, right? Assignment 2 is to show that we have grown. So if you get a pass from assignment 1 or credit and you want to have high distinction, then make sure that your assignment 2 is very good and the mark goes really high, right? So that's what I want.
Ania, I have a question.
Yes.
So we will learn more deep stuff in ECM 251. So the next unit.
We will be learning more and more. What we do with each unit, we will be getting deeper and deeper.
Okay. It sounds quite challenging.
Well, the point is that the difference really is not whether you work with grade 8 or grade 12, although this is assumed because people say, you know, things change. Some things change. Some things change, of course.
Yeah. One more thing I've noticed, some students may have behavior problems, particularly in middle schools. That's quite a challenge for all teachers, even language teachers.
Well, you've got 2 types of behavior management. You have thorough thugs, but no matter what you do, there will be thugs. Right? So that
Yeah.
actually requires someone else than the teacher. That actually requires a psychologist or clinician of sorts. I mean, some behaviors, it's not that actually you can actually change. Now, it doesn't matter what pedagogy. If someone wants to beat people, they will. Your pedagogy is not going to change it. So that's one type of behavior problems. Another problem that you have in terms of behavior is this. I mean, honestly, where do you find the class when the teacher is controlling the learning and all children are actually happy with that? This is a picture. Reality is that one kid is pulling another kid's hair, another one is lying and looking at the ceiling, another one is scratching himself completely bored.
Yeah, that's right.
So what we need to do is not do teacher-centered and explanation-based pedagogy. What we need to do is think how to create a learner-centered environment where we actually engage children in doing things that they see as productive, and we do too. So pedagogy itself, I mean, as I said, if someone has really behavioral problem but has nothing to do with your teaching but has everything to do with some sort of stance towards life, they actually want to beat people, then no matter what you do, they will be beating people. But if some people are simply, behavior problem is not a behavior problem, it's a teaching problem, it's a problem that we actually bore children, then can we think of ways in which the children that we bore can be somehow engaged? And we now know for sure that there is one tool in this whole planet that actually engages 1-year-old, 2-year-old, and this 80-year-old, and that's technology. So what we will be looking at is how, and I've done it throughout the semester already, we will be looking at how can we use technology, how can we use community, and how can we use each other in order to produce engaging environment, in environments where children can actually follow up their intentions and explore their intentions, because not every child actually knows what intentions they have. I'm just trying to find where we were on the slide. I can't find the... Okay, so what we need to do is to create an environment, and especially with the help of technology, where we engage ICT, we engage community, kids in the school, in and out, and in classroom and outside, if possible, but say kids in classroom together. And also an environment through which kids can actually explore their intentions. Because they don't know their intentions. I mean, they come to the classroom and they come with the attitude, come on, entertain me or do something, or let's get on with it, right? But they have intentions. And if you actually, as a smart teacher, you should actually know how to enable children to explore them, to explore those intentions. And for the next so many weeks, the term explore will be the key term. And one of the reasons why kids and everybody else loves internet and loves gadgets and technology is because it gives them an opportunity to explore and play. Now, the terms, if you didn't know, explore and play are the key terms in education. But somehow, these terms are not utilized sufficiently, and they disappear. They disappear among other words which have no theoretical basis, but they are called basic. What's basic? Nobody knows what's basic. We use the word, but nobody knows what it means. So
yeah,
basic
exactly.
comes in, the words like basic come in, the words like vocabulary list. There's no such a thing. Language doesn't have vocabulary. No, just because linguists call something words, that doesn't mean that this is the things we use. Right? So there are no vocabulary lists. There are just ways, we have ways of expressing intentions. We can call those ways that they use words, we can say that they use phrases, we can say that they use signals, we can say that they use symbols, we can call it whatever.
Yeah.
Right? So there's no such a thing like basic, and there is no such a thing like words and vocabularies, but what there is are intentions, so ways of signaling things, ways of signaling intentions. For example, did you like the movie? Oh, shit. Right? That's one way to say that was really, really bad, and that's what you say to your friend, but you wouldn't say it to your superior. To your superior, your intention would be not to insult, to show respect. You say, no, really, not really. I didn't like it, really. It was really, I had ambivalent feelings, right? So that's what you say to your top superior. But to your friend, you say, oh my God, that was a real, you know what, right? So there are ways of signaling intention. So you know that if you use swear word to your friend, that will be a good shortcut, and it will express your feelings, and the friend will not get insulted. But you don't use those words in front of a vice chancellor or in front of your school principal or anyone who's above you.
Yeah.
Because you know that they will have every reason to get upset or insult. So this is pretty much this page that we just have on our screen really talks about pedagogic framework. It talks about people being different. It talks about teachers to actually remember it at every step of their teaching. That's what when teachers remember that people are different, that people come to classroom with different intentions, with different histories, and therefore with different, let's call it needs, but they're not really needs, they're intentions, different histories. When you understand it, then you don't get impatient, you don't over-assess. You create a safe environment where people can be wrong, where people can say to you things, and you will say, well, let's have a look. Let's explore this. Well, how can we check it? Ask them questions. Ask them what can you use to find out whether it's true or not. And they'll say internet. And what will we type in the Google search? This? Have a look. Have a look. Let's have a look what pops out, right? People love that. People love it when they are 2 years old. People love it when they are 12 years old. And people love it when they're 60 years old.
Yeah.
People don't like bullies.
Yeah.
And the pedagogy of oppression is a little man who is uneducated, standing in front of, or a little man or a woman, standing in front of children and covering up with some little smile saying, now look at the book, I'll give you the meaning of it, and hopefully you will reproduce it. Oh my God, and where are the capabilities of creativity? Where are the capabilities of creative thinking here? Where is the community here? Where is Asia here? Where is indigenous people in there? I mean, one text can't cover the whole thing. Why are we all looking at one text? What is this? What is so revealing about this one text that is going to give it to us? So rather than answer these questions today, and I really will hope that we can actually start it next week with those words, I want to talk about the words explore and about the word play.
Yeah.
And I want to actually show how the concept of play and the concept of exploration work together to create safe environments and also interesting environments where what interests one person is not overpowering other people. And that's what we will be looking at. So I'm very sorry, Sanchi, but we didn't actually do the assessment of your PowerPoint today, although we were really...
My PowerPoint, what's her name? Yeah, this girl's PowerPoint, it's okay. Yeah, we did last week. Yeah, you helped me.
I didn't see her. I didn't see it. I didn't see Sanchi. So this is the first time I opened this. So this weekend I will do the assessment of all the PowerPoints.
Yeah, and I will upload my PowerPoint tonight. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, please do. Please do.
And I hope it's not too hard on assignments.
So please do. And then we will be looking at building the e-portfolio. We will be looking at using probably. I mean, you can use any system online, and you should learn how to use them, and we will talk about it. But one of the key things in the e-portfolio is to show that you have actually a command of pedagogy. And one way to actually show you have a command of pedagogy is to actually upload your resource using different systems like maybe AuthorStream or Slideshow or whatever. Once you upload your PowerPoint or even maybe Google Docs, anyway, once you upload your PowerPoint, then you can actually make a link. I will show you what to do with it. But what I will be really interested in is to create a manual, something that actually talks to teachers about this. And you can use it, the manual, to explain to teachers how to work with your resource. And also you can explain about the good things about it and bad things about it, and explain why do you think today you could do it better. These things are very important. And just to make sure that none of you actually is worried about crucifying your own PowerPoint, I just spoke yesterday, I gave a public lecture, and the head of research for the entire university was there, Professor Lawrence Cram. And I told this story that happened. I had a student who was working on the project for me and for himself, obviously, especially for himself. But that was a project that I invented. And when I went to give a conference paper, I went a bit earlier because I knew I had to actually prepare. And when I looked at the student's work, I realized that the student was I sent the student on a wrong path. It wasn't a wrong path. We still had to test it, right? But it wasn't the path I would actually present at the conference. And what I wanted you to know is that there is not such a thing like wrong, right. You've got to explore paths in order to then know where to go, right? So what the student did, the student in his assignment, in his project, explored particular path. And had he not done it, I wouldn't have known that it wasn't actually productive. So the productive part of his work was not that he got it right or wrong, but that he actually tested an aspect. And science is based on testing, right? 5 million tests go wrong before you get it right. So, or before you get it in a way that actually solves a lot of problems. So if you actually, in your professional portfolio, will talk about your lesson design or the unit of work design, and if you actually identify the strengths and how to work with that unit and how to make it better, that only reflects on your improvement and progression. It doesn't actually reflect badly on what you have done as a first assignment. That's why, in that sense, assignment 1 is not as relevant. What it is, it was just something in relation to which we will be progressing.
Yeah.
All right. So Dylan, be good.
Yeah.
Happy. You're most welcome.
Yeah, I'm very happy, particularly when you spend like almost 1.5 hours with me to explain all these stuff.
That's good,
and
Dylan.
I'm quite clear now. And I heard, your class, I know your office is quite close to the sports floor in there. I know. Yeah, maybe next time I can drop by if I'm free.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. All right, Dylan. Nice to talk to you as always, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you, Ania. Yeah, see you next week.
Thank you very much.
Bye, Ania. Goodbye. Have a good day.